Return of the Living Dead is a 1985 horror comedy written and directed by Dan O'Bannon and starring Clu Gallagher and James Karen as two bumbling employees at a medical supply warehouse accidentally release a deadly gas into the air that causes the dead to rise again as zombies. Scream Factory presents this film for the first time with a new 4K restoration with Dolby Vision and HDR10. What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. And today, guys, I am going to talk about Scream Factory's latest release of Return of the Living Dead on 4K. And yeah, I was super excited to get this one in and review it and talk about it with you guys. This one, to me, is the Scream Factory release of the month. I have not gotten the Halloween movies on 4K, but those to me are definitely, like, all three of those movies, to be honest, combined are not as good as the Return of the Living Dead. So I'm really excited to talk about this one here today. But before we get into it, guys, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We talk about new 4Ks and Blu-rays on this channel. We do videos on physical media, updates, news updates, collection hauls, unboxing videos, just everything physical media if you like that kind of stuff. Owning the movies that you love, all that stuff there behind me, then definitely consider hitting the subscribe button. Also, be sure to like this video and then comment down below, guys, what's your thoughts on the movie The Return of the Living Dead? Will you be purchasing this 4K? So let's jump right into this release, guys. And I do like to talk about the movie briefly before we get into the transfer and the audio and the special features and just the overall packaging of this release by Scream Factory. But this movie, I only watched for the first time last year, but I freaking loved this film. This movie came out the year I was born in 1985. This is a good month for movies that came out the year I was born being remastered in 4K because we got Fright Night as well from 1985. But I freaking love this movie. I'm not even the biggest, like, zombie movie fan, but I don't know. This was just so, like, fresh and just felt so original. Like, even all the zombie movies we get nowadays, like, just going off of, like, you know, the Dawn of the Dead remake or Train to Busan or some of those other, like, more 28 Days Later, some of those other, like, The Walking Dead even, some of those, like, recent zombie stuff. Like, this felt even fresher and more original than those, especially when you compare it to the Romero flicks. So this is a movie that was directed and written by Dan O'Bannon, who, if you don't know, is responsible for the creation of the Alien franchise. So definitely a good pedigree there with him as a creator. So yeah, I just really love this movie. I was really just taken aback by how fun it was, but also just how entertaining and awesome, like, some of the characters in this movie are. Like, I love everybody in this movie. It's really, like, whenever I see a movie that's able to balance, because I've never been the biggest, like, fan of horror comedies. I love comedies and I love horror, but for some reason, like, sometimes when they try to mix the two together, it doesn't always work for me. So I'm always impressed by a movie that can just balance both of those so perfectly and actually make me laugh out loud in certain scenes. And then in other scenes, I'm absolutely terrified and I'm just scared and I just feel uneasy about, like, what's going on and what I'm witnessing on screen. This movie does it so well. Also, American Werewolf in London is another example of a movie doing that so well. So just the perfect horror comedy, in my opinion, with, like I said, great characters, some of the best, absolute best practical effects and makeup effects that I've ever seen, like with the Tar Man and the half corpse, like that stuff, all that stuff looks excellent. We'll get into how it looks in 4K here in a second, but just some great gore in this, just some scenes that are just, like I said, absolutely horrific. Like zombies, like when they come attack somebody, they bite like chunks out of them and you can see it, just like them going in for the kill. It's absolutely terrifying. So I think that this movie absolutely nails, like, zombies and just, like, the attack mode and just the state of fear and dread that comes along with the zombie hordes and stuff. This movie just absolutely nails all that. It's also cool that this is set in my home state, which is something I didn't know when I watched it last year. So they mentioned, like, Louisville, Kentucky, several times in this, and I actually live, like, not in Louisville, but I'm, like, outside of, like, on the outskirts of it. So that was cool that they, you know, referenced that in the movie several times as well. Just great direction, like I said, by Dan O'Bannon. It introduces a lot of interesting ideas that would change the zombie genre forever, and it's something I didn't realize last year when I watched it. But the whole, like, brains thing, zombies wanting to eat brains, that comes from this movie. Like, that was not introduced by any of the Romero zombie movies from back in the day. So the idea of a zombie wanting to eat brains and the whole, like, brains thing that we've heard in, like, everything. I remember when I was a kid, I played a game called Zombies Ate My Neighbors, also Plants vs. Zombies as well, I was a big fan of. And they say that in there and you kind of get that in there. So I never knew that it came from this movie. That was the first movie to introduce that. Also fast zombies, like running zombies, which I will always say, to me, is more scary than the slow moving zombies. The slow moving zombies, like, that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of zombie movies. It doesn't really work for me. Like, I'm never really like terrified or scared or feel any sort of sense of dread. I've just never been scared of slow moving zombies. To me, it's like, okay, so a zombie's coming at you really slow, just run the other way, and there you go, problem solved. But the fast moving zombies, like, this is one of the reasons why Dawn of the Dead, the remake with Zack Snyder, was one of my favorite zombie movies ever, because the fast moving zombies in that are just absolutely terrifying. So I'm a big fan of fast moving zombies, and that started here with this movie, just the zombies like running towards the police force at the end. That's a terrifying sequence as well. Just a lot of cool stuff in this film. It's very punk rock. Like, you have a lot of characters that are very like punk, like in that culture that was so prevalent in the 80s. So it's just a really cool movie. And again, this movie became a cult hit back in the day. And I can absolutely see why. So great soundtrack, great music. Just everything about this movie is just super cool and fun. And I highly recommend, if you haven't seen Return of the Living Dead yet, definitely check this one out. But let's get into the actual transfer. The reason you guys are all here. So this is a new 4K restoration from the original camera negative, new restoration, new 2022 restoration. And this does have Dolby Vision and HDR10 as well. And yeah, this looks absolutely fantastic, just like I thought that it would. A beautiful transfer by Scream Factory. And Scream Factory, you can say what you want about them, but when they are on point with their transfers, their 4K restorations, like, they really knock it out of the park. And I know they're getting a lot of criticism for remastering a lot of their older, catalog in 4K, a lot of their older Blu-rays in 4K. They're not really coming out with a whole lot that's new recently, but they are absolutely nailing these transfers. Like this one, Army of Darkness, that came out a couple of weeks ago, like, both look phenomenal. The zombies and effects look like they never have before. Like, when you first see that tar man, like, he is so glossy and disgusting looking, and just in 4K, like with that contrast and those black levels turned all the way up, it looks honestly incredible and like it never has before. Like, I watched it on Blu-ray last year for the first time. I do not remember it looking that good. It's so slimy, it's so disgusting. You can just see every bit of it, every single detail. The half corpse laying on the table, like, that was a very dull, almost puke-like green, just a very light green. Like, this green on the half corpse in the 4K restoration was just super vibrant and colorful, and the green was very dark and just looked very realistic. Even though you can tell it's an animatronic on the table, but the effects work is fantastic. It just still really stood out in that scene with the half corpse. So both of those, I was kind of thinking were gonna stand out, and they absolutely did. They absolutely delivered with this transfer. All the cemetery stuff, like all the kids in the cemetery dancing around, especially Trash dancing naked on the graves, all that stuff was a standout sequence. All that stuff in the cemetery looked absolutely fantastic. It's raining a lot in this movie. So you get a lot of scenes with characters with like water on their skin, like water, and I imagine like sweat as well, because they're running around a lot. But when they do some of those close-ups and you see, like, you can see every single droplet of water on their skin, and just the facial detail is fantastic. Just great colors, the black levels with the HDR edition, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely how I envisioned this transfer was going to be. I thought it was going to be beautiful, and it absolutely was. Now, one thing that I will say, and this isn't like too much of a negative, but when you get into the credits at the end, there's some scenes that they show that weren't completely restored, and there was like replays of like scenes in the actual film, and those scenes weren't restored. So I could see that being a little jarring, like if you're going from the actual movie to the credits, seeing some of those scenes in the background with the credits rolling over top of them looked like they were in just like the old HD presentation, Blu-ray presentation, and they did not restore those scenes. So I don't know the reason why. Maybe there was a reason they didn't do it, but it didn't look as good as the actual film itself. So it was a little jarring to go from the film to those scenes with the credits. So, but again, that's the only negative I could say about it, and that's really doesn't take away from the experience. It's the credits of the film. The Blu-ray does have a 4K scan as well, so the Blu-ray in this set is a 4K scan. So that's the first time the Scream Factory Blu-ray has included that 4K scan. And getting into the audio, you do have the original Mono 2.0 DTS HD master audio. So that's the original audio that was remastered for this set. You get a 5.1 DTS HD master audio as well. Everything sounded great. The music and the actual actual like zombie hordes themselves. Like I said, when you hear the zombies like running off in the distance, you can hear the growls in the distance, and they just all sounded super clear. And it just provided a more immersive experience, I guess, and just up that scare factor for me. But yeah, the music in this is incredible as well. The score is great. You can just hear everything so crystal clear and perfectly, so no issues with the sound and stuff there. Zombie subtitles are also included in this, which I did not try out, but I saw that option on there. So I guess you can hit that and actually see what the zombies are actually saying, even though it is kind of clear what they're saying at some points. Like they say brains and bring more paramedics, which is a famous line from this movie that's absolutely hilarious when it plays in the film itself. And yeah, getting into the packaging. So you do have this, basic slipcover by Scream Factory. I do love that they're using the original posters on these. I wasn't sure what to think about it at first when they started doing it, but now I love it. I love the fact they're using the original posters for these 4Ks. I think everybody should do that. Every single 4K, every single studio should use the original posters. I'm looking at you, Poltergeist, Lost Boys, for your 4K covers. But great cover on this. I'll kind of show off the back as well. I already did a little bit of an unboxing on a previous haul video. So, the only criticism, again, you lift this up, no reversible cover art. It would be cool if they used the old school Scream Factory that was on the previous Scream Factory Blu-ray for the reversible cover art here. That would be cool. But looking inside, you got the disc. This is a 3-disc set. You got the 4K disc. You got the Blu-ray, which does have, some special features on it as well. And then you get another disc that has like all special features, documentaries, and all that good stuff on there. So, and getting into the special features themselves, like there are some incredible special features in this set. Nothing new. It's all ported over from the original Scream Factory Blu-ray that came out a few years ago. And to be honest, it's okay because there's so many special features that they've included that they ported over that there's plenty of stuff to dig into. But what I will say again, if you already purchased that Blu-ray back in the day, then you've already seen all these special features. Like me personally, I didn't have that Blu-ray. I just have a basic MGM Blu-ray, a Steelbook. So all these features are new for me, so I can't wait to dig into them. But, if you've already had this release for any length of time, you've already watched those special features. So it would be nice to include one new thing in this release. Again, they did it with Child's Play. Why can they not do it with all their releases? 5 new interviews with Child's Play. All I'm asking for is maybe a new commentary, maybe a new interview, just something new to make it feel worth your while if you've already purchased that Blu-ray release back in the past. So, but anyway, just some great special features here. You get 4 audio commentaries in this release, and you can get those on the 4K disc and the Blu-ray disc. But 4 audio commentaries, that's absolutely insane. You get a commentary with the author Gary Smart, the complete history of the Return of the Living Dead, and Chris Griffin's audio commentary with actors Tom Matthews, John Philbin, and makeup effects artist Tony Gardner. Audio commentary with director Dan O'Bannon, production designer William Stout, audio commentary with William Stout, and actors Don Calfa, Linnea Quigley, who is great in this film. I love Linnea Quigley in this movie. Brian Peck, Beverly Randolph, I'm already butchering everybody's name, and Alan Troutman. So just tons of great audio commentaries that I imagine were present on all the previous releases, DVDs, maybe Laserdisc from back in the day. And then on disc 2 on the Blu-ray, you get all the commentaries, and you also get the Decade of Darkness featurette, theatrical trailers, TV spots, still galleries, and all that kind of stuff. Disc 3, though, you get the Return of the Living Dead work print, More Brains, A Return to the Living Dead. So I actually watched like 15 minutes of that. That's a 2-hour documentary that I'm actually really excited to get more into. I need to watch that entire thing because it seemed absolutely fascinating. The origins of the Return of the Living Dead, The Return of the Living Dead, The Dead Have Risen, Designing the Dead, Horror Hollow Grounds, a look at the film's locations, and a conversation with writer-director Dan O'Bannon. So tons of special features on that disc 3, including some documentaries, some featurettes. So this thing is jam-packed with tons of supplemental material. It's just the fact that there's nothing new to dig into in the set if you've already purchased that Blu-ray edition. But guys, look, if you already have that Blu-ray edition, if you've never owned this film before, I have to give this a high recommendation. I think it looks great in 4K. It's definitely the best this film has ever looked. I can understand you owning the Blu-ray, having all the special features, and saying, I don't need to see this movie in the best possible format. I'm fine with my Blu-ray. I definitely understand that. But guys, I'm telling you, this looks great in 4K, great special features, and I would absolutely recommend that you get it. Right now, you can get it off of Amazon for $29.99. So with that, guys, we are done with my review of the Return of the Living Dead on 4K from Scream Factory. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Comment down below. Turn on those bell notifications and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.